So we are reading from Genesis to Revelation. Currently, I am at Second Samuel. So I stopped at Second Samuel chapter 10 yesterday. So this morning I'll be starting from Second Samuel chapter 11. So before we start, let's say our Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us all our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So, Second Samuel chapter 11 says the following spring, at the time to will, time of the year when kings usually go to war, David set out Joab with his officers and the Israelite army. They defeated the Ammonites and besieged the city of Rabbah, but David himself stayed in Jerusalem. One day, late in the afternoon, David got up from his nap and went to the palace roof. As he walked about up there, he saw a woman having a bath. She was very beautiful. So he sent a messenger to find out who she was, and learned that she was Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. David sent messengers to fetch her. They brought her to him, and he made love to her. She had just finished her monthly ritual of purification. Then she went back home. Afterward, she discovered that she was pregnant and sent a message to David to tell him. David then sent a message to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." So Joab sent him to David. When Uriah arrived, David asked him if Joab and the troop were well and how the fighting was going. Then he said to Uriah, "Go home and rest a while." Uriah left, and David sent a present to his home, but Uriah did not go home. Instead, he slept at the palace gates with the king's guards. When David heard that Uriah did not go home, he asked him, "You have just returned after a long absence. Why don't you go home?" Uriah answered, "The men of Israel and Judea are away at the war, and the covenant boss is still with them. My commander Joab and his officers are camping out in the open. How could I go home, eat and drink, and sleep with my wife? By all that is sacred, I swear that I could never do such a thing." So David said, "Then stay here the rest of the day, and tomorrow I will send you back." So Uriah stayed in Jerusalem that day and the next day. David invited him to supper and made him drunk. But again that night Uriah did not go home. Instead, he slept on his blanket in the palace guard room. Morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by Uriah. He wrote, "Put Uriah in the front of line where the fighting is heaviest, then retreat and let him be killed." So while Joab was besieging the city, he sent Uriah to a place where he knew the enemy was strong. The enemy troop came out of the city and fought Joab's forces. Some of David's officials were killed, and so was Uriah. Joab sent a report to David telling him about the battle, and he instructed the messenger, "After you have told the king all about the battle, he may get angry and ask you, 'Why did you go so near the city to fight them? Don't you realize that they won't shoot arrow from the walls? Don't you remember how Abimelech, son of Gideon, was killed? It was a Thebes, where a woman threw a milestone down from the wall and killed him. Why then did you go so near the wall?' If the king asks you this, tell him, 'Your officer Uriah was also killed.'" So the messenger went to David and told him what Joab had commanded him to say. He said, "Our enemies were stronger than we were and came out of the city to fight us in the open. But we drove them back to the city gates. Then they shoot arrows at us from the wall, and some of your majesty's officials were killed. Your officers Uriah was also killed." David said to David said to the messenger, "Encourage Joab, him not to be upset, since you never can tell who will die in battle. Tell him to launch a stronger attack on the city and capture it." When Bathsheba heard that her husband had been killed, she mourned for him. When the time of mourning was over, David sent for her to come to the palace. She became his wife and bore him a son. But the Lord was not pleased with what David had done. 2 Samuel chapter 12. Nathan's message and David's repentance. The Lord sent the prophet Nathan to David. Nathan went to him and said, "Two men who live in the same town. One was rich and the other poor. The rich man have many cattle and sheep, while the poor man have only one lamb, which he have bought. He took care of it, and it grew up in his home with his children. He will feed it with some of his own food, let it drink from his cup, and hold it in his lap. The lamb was like a daughter to him. One day a visitor arrived at the rich man's home. The rich man did not want to kill one of his own animals to prepare a meal for him. Instead, he took the poor man's lamb and cooked a meal for his guest. David was very angry with the rich man and said, "I swear by the living Lord that the man who did this ought to die. For having done such a cruel thing, he must pay back 4 times as much as he took." "You are that man," Nathan said to David. "And this is what the Lord God of Israel says. I made you king of Israel and rescued you from Saul. I gave you his kingdom and his wives. I made you king over Israel and Judea. If this have not been enough, I would have given you twice as much. Why then have you disobeyed my commands? Why did you do these evil things? You have Uriah killed in battle. You let the Ammonites kill him, and then you took his wife. Now, in every generation, some of your descendants will die a violent death because you have disobeyed me and have taken Uriah's wife. I swear to you that I will cause someone from your own family to bring trouble on you. You will see it when I take your wives from you and give them to another man, and he will have intercourse with them in broad daylight. You sin in secret, but I will make this happen in broad daylight for all Israel to see. I have sinned against the Lord," David said. Nathan replied, "The Lord forgive you, you will not die. But because you have shown such contempt for the Lord in doing this, your child will die." Then Nathan went home. David's sons died. The Lord caused the child that Uriah's wife had born to David to become very ill. David prayed to God that the child won't get well. He refused to eat anything, and every night he went into his room and spent the night lying on the floor. His court officials went to him and tried to make him get up, but he refused and would not eat anything with them. A week later, the child died, and David's officials were afraid to tell him the news. They said, "While the child was living, David would not answer us when we spoke to him. How can we tell him that his child is dead? He might do himself some harm." When David noticed them whispering to each other, he realized that the child had died. So he asked them, "Is the child dead?" "Yes, he is," he answered. David got up from the floor, had a bit cold vegetable soup, and ate it. I will someday go to where he is, but he can never come back to me. Yes. Solomon is born. Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba. He had intercourse with her, and she bore a son whom David named Solomon. The Lord loved the boy and commanded the prophet Nathan to name the boy Jedidiah because the Lord loved him. David captured Rabbah. Meanwhile, Joab continued his campaign against Rabbah, capital city of Ammon, and was about to capture it. He sent messengers to David to report, I have attacked Rabbah and have captured its water supply. Now, gather the rest of your forces, attack the city and take it yourself. I don't want to get the credit for capturing it. So David gathered his forces, went to Rabbah, attacked it and conquered it. From the head of the idol of the Ammonites, god Molech, David took a gold crown, which weighed about 35 kilograms and had a jewel in it. David took the jewel and put it in his own crown. He also took a large amount of loot from the city and put its people to work with swords, iron hoes, and iron axes, and forced them to work at making bricks. He did the same to the people of all the other towns of Ammon. Then he and his men returned to Jerusalem. 2 Samuel chapter 13. Amnon and Tamar. David's son Absalom has a beautiful unmarried sister named Tamar. Amnon, another of David's son, fell in love with her. He was so much in love with her that he became in, because it seemed impossible for him to have her. As a virgin, she was kept from meeting men, but he had a friend, a very strange man named Jonadab, the son of David's brother Shammah. Jonadab said to Amnon, you are the king's son, yet day after day I see you looking sad. What is the matter? I am in love with Tamar, the sister of my half-brother Absalom, he answered. Jonadab said to him, pretend that you are in and go to bed. When your father comes to see you, say to him, please, sister Tamar, to come and feed me. I want her to prepare the food here, where I can see her, and then serve it to me herself. So Amnon pretended that he was in and went to bed. King David went to see him, and Amnon said to him, please, let Tamar come and make a few cakes here, where I can see her, and then serve them to me herself. So David sent word to Tamar in the palace, go to Amnon's house and prepare some food for him. She went there and found him in bed. She took some dough, prepared it, and made some cakes there where he could see her. Then she baked the cakes and emptied of the pan for him to eat. But he would not. He said, send everyone away. Then he said to her, bring the cake here to my bed to me yourself. She took the cake and went over to him. As she offered them to him, he grabbed her and said, come to bed with me. No, she said, don't force me to do such a degrading. That is awful. How could I ever hold up my head in public again? And you would be completely disgraced in Israel. Please speak to the king, and I'm sure that he will give me to you. But he would not listen to her. And since he was stronger than she was, he overpowered her and raped her. Then Amnon was filled with a deep hatred for her. He hated her now even more than he had loved her before. He said to her, get out. No, she answered. To send me away like this is a greater crime than what you just did. But Amnon would not listen to her. He called in his personal servant and said, "Get this woman out of my sight. Throw her out and lock the door." The servant put her out and locked the door. Tamar was wearing a long robe with full sleeves, the usual clothing for an unmarried princess in those days. She sprinkled ashes on her head, tore her robe, and with her face buried in her hand, went away crying. When her brother Absalom saw her, he asked, "Has Amnon molested you? Please, sister, don't let it upset you so much. He is your half-brother, so don't tell anyone about it." So Tamar lived in Absalom house, sad and lonely. When King David heard what had happened, he was furious. And Absalom hated Amnon so much for having raped his sister Tamar that he would no longer even speak to him. Absalom revenge. 2 years later, Absalom was having his sheep sheared at Bahazor, near the town of Ephraim, and he invited all the king's sons to be there. He went to King David and said, "Your Majesty, I am having a sheep sheared. Will you and your officials come and take part in the festivities?" "No, my son," the king answered. "It will be too much trouble for you if we all went." Absalom insisted, but the king would not give in, and he asked Absalom to leave. But Absalom said, "Well then, will you at least let my brother Abner come?" Why should him?" the king asked. But Absalom kept on insisting until David finally let Abner and all his other sons go with Absalom. Absalom prepared a banquet fit for a king, and instructed his servants, Notice when Abner had too much to drink, and then when I give the order, kill him. Do not be afraid. I will take the responsibility myself. Be brave and don't hesitate." So the servants followed Absalom's instruction and killed Abner. All the rest of David's sons mounted their mules and fled. While they were on their way home, David was told, "Absalom have killed all your sons. Not one of them is left." The king stood up, tore his clothes in sorrow, and threw himself to the ground. The servants who were there with him tore their clothes also. But Jonadab, the son of David's brother Shammah, said, "Your Majesty, they have not killed all your sons. Only Abner is dead." You could tell by looking at Absalom that he had made up his mind to do this from the time that Abner raped his sister Tamar. So do not believe the news that all your sons are dead. Only Abner was killed. In the meantime, Absalom had fled. Just then the soldier on sentry duty saw a large crowd coming down the hill on the road from Haronan. He went to the king and reported what he had seen. Jonadab said to king, "Those are your sons coming, just as I said they would." As soon as he finished saying this, David's son came in, started crying. And David and his officials also wept bitterly. Absalom fled and went to the king of Geshur, Talmai son of Ammihud, and stayed there 3 years. David mourned a long time for his son, but when he got over Abner's death, he was filled with longing for his son Absalom. 2 Samuel chapter 14. Joab arranged for Absalom's ransom. Joab knew that King David missed Absalom very much, so he sent for a clever woman who lived in Tekoa. When she arrived, he said to her, "Pretend that you are in mourning, put on your mourning clothes, and don't comb your hair. Act like a woman who has been in mourning for a long time. Then go to the king and say to him what I tell you to say. Then Joab told her what to say. The woman went to the king, bowed down in respect, and said, "Help me, your majesty. What do you want?" He asked her. "I am a poor widow, sir," she answered. "My husband is dead, sir. I had two sons, and one day they got into a quarrel out in the field, where there was no one to separate them. And one of them killed the other. And now, sir, all my relatives have turned against me, and are demanding that I hand my son over to them, so that they can kill him for murdering his brother. If they do this, I will be left without a son. They will destroy my last hope and leave my husband without a son to keep his name. Go back home," the king answered, "and I will take care of the matter." "Your Majesty," she said, "whatever you do, my family and I will take the blame. You and the royal family are innocent." The king replied, "If anyone threatens you, bring him to me, and he will never trouble you again." She said, "Your Majesty, please pray to the Lord your God, so that my relative who is responsible for avenging the death of my son will not commit a greater crime by killing my other son." "I promise by the living God," David replied, "that your son will not be harmed in the least. Please, your majesty, let me say just one more thing." The woman said, "All right," he answered. She said to him, "Why have you done such a wrong to God's people? You have not allowed your own son to return from the exile, and so you have condemned yourself by what you have just said. We will all die. We are like water spit on the ground, which cannot be gathered again. Even God does not bring the dead back to life. But the king can at least find a way to bring a man back from exile. Now, your majesty, the reason I have come to speak to you is that the people threatening me. And so I said to myself that I will speak to you in the hope that you will do what I ask. I thought you will listen to me and save me from one who is trying to kill my son and me, and so remove us from the land God gave his people. I said to myself that your promise, sir, would make me safe, because the king is like God's angel and can distinguish good from evil. May the Lord your God be with you." The king answered, "I am going to ask you a question, and you must tell me the whole truth." "Ask me anything, your majesty," she answered. "Did Joab put you up to this?" He answered. He asked her. She answered, "I swear by all that is sacred, your man, that there is no way to avoid answering your question. It was indeed your officer, Joab, who told me what to do and what to say. But he did it in order to straighten out this whole matter. Your Majesty is as wise as the angel of God and knows everything that happened." Later on, the king said to Joab, "I have decided to do what you want. Go and get the young man Absalom and bring him back here." Joab, uh, Joab threw himself to the ground in front of David in respect and said, "God bless you, your majesty. Now I know that you are pleased with me, because you have granted my request." Then he got up and went to Gishur and brought Absalom back to Jerusalem. The king, however, gave orders that Absalom shall not live in the palace. "I don't want to see him," the king said. So Absalom lived in his own house and did not appear before the king. Absalom is reconciled to David. There was no one in Israel as famous for his good look as Absalom. He had no defect from head to toe. His hair was very thick and he had to cut it out a year. When it grew too long and heavy, it would weigh more than 2 kilograms according to the royal standard of weight. Absalom has 3 sons and one daughter named Tamar, a very beautiful woman. Absalom lived 2 years in Jerusalem without seeing the king. Then he sent for Joab to ask him to go to the king for him. But Joab would not come. Again, Absalom sent for him, and again Joab refused to come. So Absalom said to his servants, "Look, Joab's field is next to mine, and it have barley growing in it. Go and set fire to it." So they went and set the fire on it. Joab went to Absalom's house and demanded, "Why did your servant set fire to my field?" Absalom answered, "Because you would not come when I sent for you. I wanted you to go to the king and ask him for me. Why did I leave Gishon and come here? It would have been better for me to have stayed there." And Absalom went on, "I want you to arrange for me to see the king. And if I am guilty, then let him put me to death." Joab went to King David and told him what Absalom had said. The king sent for Absalom, who went to him and bowed down to the ground in front of him. The king welcomed him with a kiss. Second Samuel chapter 15. Absalom planned rebellion. Where? Again. After this, Absalom provided a chariot and horses for himself and an escort of 15 men. He would get up early and go and stand by the road at the city gate. Whenever someone came there, and he would add, "I wish I were a judge." Then anyone who had a dispute or a claim could come to me, and I would give him justice. When the man approached Absalom to bow down before him, Absalom would reach out to take Absalom would reach out, take hold of him, and listen. Absalom did this with every Israelite who came to the king for justice, and so he won their loyalty. After 4 years, Absalom said to King David, "Sir, let me go to Hebron and keep a promise I made to the Lord. While I was living in Gishon in Syria, I promised the Lord that if he would take me back to Jerusalem, I would worship him in Hebron." "Go in peace," the king said. So Absalom went to Hebron, but he sent messengers to all the tribe of Israel to say, "When you hear the sound of trumpets, shout, 'Absalom have become king at Hebron.'" There were 200 men who at Absalom's invitation have gone from Jerusalem with him. They knew nothing of the plot and went in all good faith. And while he was offering sacrifices, it's not even king. Absalom also sent to the king to the town of Gilead for Ahithophel, who was one of the king David's advisors. The plot against the king The plot against the king gained strength, and Absalom's followers grew in number. David flees from Jerusalem. Where? King, he conflict. A messenger reported to David, "The Israelites are pledging their loyalty to Absalom." So David said to all his officers with him in Jerusalem, "We must get away at once if we want to escape from Absalom. Hurry, or else he will soon be here and defeat us and kill everyone in the city." "Yes, your majesty," they answered, "we are ready to do whatever you say." So the king left, accompanied by all his family and officers, except for 10 concubines whom he left behind to take care of the palace. As the king and all his men were leaving the city, they stopped at the last house. All his officers stood next to him as the royal but the guard passed by in front of him. The 600 soldiers who had followed him from Gath also passed by, and the king said to Ittai, their leader, "Why are you going with us? Go back and stay with the new king. You are a foreigner, a refugee away from your own country. You have lived here only a short time, so why should I make you wander around with me? I don't even know where I'm going. Go back and take your fellow countrymen with you, and may the Lord be kind and faithful to you." But Ittai answered, "Your Majesty, I swear to you in the Lord's name that I will always go with you wherever you go, even if it means death." Ittai and Ruth. Fine, David answered. March on. So Ittai went on with all his men and their dependents. The people cried loudly as David's followers left. The king crossed the brook of Kidron, followed by his men, and together they went out towards the wilderness. Zadok the prince was there, and with him were the Levites carrying the sacred covenant box. They set it down and did not pick it up again until all the people have left the city. The prince Abiathar was there too. Then the king said to Zadok, "Take the covenant box back to the city. If the Lord is pleased with me, someday he will let me come back to see it and the place where it stays. But if he is not pleased with me, well, then let him do to me what he wishes." And he went on to say to Zadok, "Look, take your son Ahimaaz and Abiatar's son Jonathan, and go back to the city in peace. Meanwhile, I will wait at the river crossing in the wilderness until I receive news from you." So Zadok and Abiathar took the covenant box back into Jerusalem and stayed there. David went on up the mountain of Olives weeping. He was barefoot and had his head covered as a sign of grief. All who followed him covered their head and wept also. When David was told that Ahithophel had joined Absalom's rebellion, he prayed, "Please, Lord, turn Ahithophel's advice into nonsense." Okay. 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 30. 2 Samuel chapter 15, verses 31. When David reached the top of the hill, where there was a place of worship, his trusted friend Hushai the Archite met him with his clothes torn, with earth on his head. David said to him, "You will be of no help to me if you come with me, but you can help me by returning to the city and telling Absalom that you will now serve him as faithfully as you serve his father, and do all you can to oppose Ahithophel. They have their sons Ahimaaz and Jonathan with them, and you can send them to me with all the information you gathered." So Hushai, David's friend, returned to the city just as Absalom was arriving. Second Samuel chapter 16. David and Ziba. When David had gone a little beyond the top of the hill, he was suddenly met by Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, who had with him a couple of donkeys loaded with 200 loaves of bread, 100 bunches of raisins, 100 bunches of fresh fruits, and a leather bag full of wine. King David asked him, "What are you going to do with all that?" Ziba answered, "The donkeys are for your majesty's family to ride. The The bread and the fruit are for the men to eat, and the wine is for them to drink when they get tired in the wilderness. Where is Mephibosheth, the grandson of your master Saul? The king asked him. He is staying in Jerusalem, Ziba answered, because he is convinced that the Israelites will now restore to him the kingdom of his grandfather Saul. The king said to Ziba, everything that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours. I am your servant, Ziba replied. May I always please your majesty. David and Shimei. When King David arrived at Bahurim, one of Saul's relatives, Shimei, son of Gera, came out to meet him, cursing him as he came. Shimei started throwing stones at David and his officials. Even though David was surrounded by his men and his bodyguard, Shimei cursed him and said, get out, murderer. Criminal, you took Saul's kingdom, and now the Lord is punishing you for murdering so many of Saul's family. The Lord have given the kingdom to your son Absalom, and you are wronged, you murderer. Abishai, whose mother was Zeruiah, said to the king, Your Majesty, why do you let this dog curse you? Let me go over there and cut off his head. This is none of your business, the king said to Abishai and his brother Joab. If he curses me because the Lord told him to, who had the right to ask why he does it? And David said to Abishai and to all his officers, My own son is trying to kill me, so why should you be surprised at this by night? Really, the Lord told him to curse, so leave him alone and let him do it. Perhaps the Lord will notice my misery and give me some blessing to take the place of his curse. So David and his men continued along the road. Shimei kept up with them, walking on the hillside. He was cursing and throwing stones and earth at them as he went. The king and all his men were worn out when they reached the Jordan, and there they rest. Absalom in Jerusalem. Absalom and all the Israelites with him entered Jerusalem, and Ahithophel was with them. When Hushai, David's trusted friend, met Absalom, he shouted, Long live the king! Long live the king! What have happened to your loyalty to your friend David? What have happened to your loyalty to your friend David? Absalom asked what will be name again? Absalom asked him, why don't you go with him? Hushai answered, How could I? I am on the side of the one chosen by the Lord, by these people and by all the Israelites. I will stay with you. After all, who should I serve if not my master's son? As I serve your father, so now I will serve you. Then Absalom told to Ahithophel and said, Now that we are here, what do you advise us to do? Ahithophel answered, Go who he left behind to take care of the palace. Then everyone in Israel will know that your father regards you as his enemy, and your followers will be greatly encouraged. So they set up a tent for Absalom on the palace roof. And in the sight of everyone, Absalom went in and had intercourse with his father's concubines. Any advice that Ahithophel gave in those days was accepted as though it were the very word of God. Both David and Absalom follow it. 2 Samuel chapter 17. Hushai misled Absalom. Not long after that, Ahithophel said to Absalom, Let me choose 12,000 men, and tonight I will set out after David. I will attack him While he is tired and discouraged, he will be threatened, and all his men will run away. I will kill only the king and then bring back all his men to you, like a bride returning to her husband. You want to kill only one man. The rest of the people will be safe. This seemed like good advice to Absalom and all the Israelite leaders. Absalom said, "Now call Hushai and let us hear what he has to say." When Hushai arrived, Absalom said to him, "This is the advice that Ahithophel have given us. Shall we follow it? If not, you tell us what to do." Hushai answered, "The advice Ahithophel gave you this time is no good. You know that your father David and his men are hard fighters and that they are as fence as a mother bear robbed of her cubs. Your father is an experienced soldier and does not stay with his men at night. Just now he is probably hiding in a cave or some other places. As soon as David attacks your men, whoever hears about it will say that your men have been defeated. Then even the bravest men, as fearless as lions, will be afraid because everyone in Israel knows that your father is a great soldier and that his men are hard fighters. My advice is that you bring all the Israelites together from one the country to the other, as many as the grain of sand on the seashore, and that you lead them personally in battle. We will find David wherever he is and attack him before he knows what is happening. Neither he nor any of his men will survive. If we retreat into a city, our people will all bring rope and just pull the city into the valley below. Not a single stone will be left there on top of the hill." Absalom and all the Israelites said, "Hushai's advice is better than Ahithophel's. The Lord has decided that Ahithophel's good advice will not be followed, so that disaster will not come on Absalom. David is won and escaped." Then Hushai told the prince Zach Then Hushai told the prince Zadok and Abiathar what advice he had given to Absalom and the Israelite leaders and what advice Ahithophel had given. Hushai added, "Send a message to David not to spend the night at the river crossings in the wilderness, but to cross the Jordan at once so that he and his men will not all be catched and killed." Abiathar's son Jonathan and Zadok's son Ahimaaz were waiting at the spring of Erogel on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Because they did not dare to be seen entering the city, a servant girl would regularly go and tell them what was happening, and then they would go and tell King David. But one day a boy happened to see them, and he told Absalom. So they hurried off to hide in the house of a certain man in Bahurim. He had a well near his house, and they got down into it. The man's wife took a covering, spread it over the opening of the well, and scattered grain over it, so that no one would notice anything. Absalom's officials came to the house and asked the woman, "Where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan?" "They crossed the river," she answered. "They went to Jerusalem." When David arrived at Mahanaim, he was met by Shobi, son of Nahash from the city of Rabbah in Ammon, and by Machiel, son of Amiel from Lodebar, and by Barzillai from Rogelim in Gilead. They brought bowls, clay pots, and beedi, also food David and his men, wheat, barley, meal, roasted grain, beans, peas, honey, cheeses, cream, and some sheep. They knew that David and his men would be hungry, thirsty, and tired in the wilderness. 2 Samuel chapter 18. Absalom is defeated and killed. King David brought all his men together, divided them into units of 8,000 and 100, and placed officers in command of them. Then he sent them out in three groups, with Joab and Joab's brother Abishai and Ittai from Gath, each in command of a group. And the king said to his men, I will go with you myself. You must not go with us, they answered. It won't make any difference to the enemy if the rest of us turn and run, or even if half of us are killed. But you are worth 10,000 of us. It will be better if you stay here in the city and send us help. I will go wherever you think best. Okay, I will do whatever you think best, the king answered. Then he stood by the side of the gate as his men marched out, each of 1,000 and of 100. He gave orders to Joab, Abishai, and Ittai. For my sake, don't harm the young man Absalom. And all the robe had David given to his officers. David's army went countryside and fought the Israelites in the forest of Ephraim. The Israelites were defeated by David's men. It was a terrible defeat, with 20,000 men killed that day. The fighting spread over the countryside and more men died in the forest than were killed in battle. Suddenly Absalom met some of David's men. Absalom was riding a mule and it went under a large oak tree. Absalom's head got catch in the branches. The mule ran over and Absalom was left hanging in midair. One of the David's men saw him and reported to Joab, Sir, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak tree. Joab answered, If you saw him, why don't you kill him on the spot? I myself would have given you 10 pieces of silver and a bet. But the man answered, Even if you give me 1,000 pieces of silver, I will not lift a finger against the king's son. We all heard the king command you and Abishai and Ittai. For my sake, don't harm the young man Absalom. But if I have disobeyed the king and killed Absalom, the king will have heard about it. He heard about everything and about it. Okay. And you would not have defended me. I'm not going to waste any more time with you, Joab said. He took 3 spears and plugged them into Absalom's chest while he was still alive, hanging in the oak tree. Then 10 of Joab's soldiers crossed in on Absalom and finished killing him. Joab ordered the trumpet to be blown to stop the fighting, and his troops came back from pursuing the Israelites. They took Absalom's body, threw it into a deep pit in the forest, and covered it with a huge pile of stone. All the Israelites fled, each man to his own home. During his lifetime, Absalom had built a monument for himself in King's Valley because he had no son to keep his name alive. So he named it after himself, and to this day it is known as Absalom's monument. David is told of Absalom's death. Then Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said to Joab, Let me run to the king with the good news that the Lord have saved him from his enemy. No, Joab said, Today you will not take any good news. Some other day you may do so, but not today, for the king's son is dead. Then he said to his Sudanese slave, Go and tell the king what you have seen. The slave bowed down and ran away. This one go there. Ahimaaz insisted, I don't care what happened. Please let me take the news also. Why do you want to do this, my son? Joab asked. You will get no reward for it. Whatever happened, Ahimaaz said again, I want to go. Then go, Joab said. So Ahimaaz ran off down the road through the Jordan Valley and soon passed the slave. David was in the space between the inner and outer gate of the city. The watchman went up to the top of the wall, and stood on top of the gateway. He looked out and saw a man running alone. He called down and told the king, and the king said, If he is alone, he is bringing good news. The runner came nearer and nearer. Then the watchman saw another man run alone. And he called down to the gatekeeper, "Look, there is another man running." The king answered, "Someone also is bringing good news." The watchman said, "I can see that the first man runs like Ahimaaz. He's a good man." The king said, "He's bringing good news." Yeah. Ahimaaz called out a greeting to the king, threw himself down to the ground before him, and said, "Praise the Lord your God, who had given you victory over the men who rebelled against your majesty." "Is the young man Absalom safe?" The king answered. "Sir, when your officer sent me here, I saw a great waiting, a great um saw a great commotion, but I could not tell what it was. Stand over there," the king said. And he went over and stood there. Then the Sudanese slave arrived and said to the king, "I have good news for your majesty. Today the Lord have given you the victory over all who rebelled against you." "Is the young man Absalom safe?" the king asked. The slave answered, "I wish that was what happened to him. To him, I wish that what happened to him would happen to all your enemies, sir, and to all who rebel against you." The king was over the king was overcome with grief. He went up to the room over the gateway and wept. As he wept, he cried, "Oh, my son Absalom, Absalom, if only I have died in your place, my son Absalom, my son." Second Samuel 19. Joab reprimanded David. Joab was told that King David was weeping and mourning for Absalom, and so the joy of victory was turned into sadness for all David's troop that day, because they heard that the king was mourning for his son. They went back into the city quietly, like soldiers who are ashamed because they are running away from battle. The king covered his face and cried loudly, "Oh, my son Absalom, Absalom, my son." Joab went to the king's house and said to him, "Today you have humiliated your men, the men who saved your life and the life of your sons and daughters, and of your wives and concubines. You oppose those who love you and support those who hate you. You have made it clear that your officers and men mean nothing to you. I can see that you would be quite happy if Absalom were alive today, and all of us were dead. Now go and reassure your men. I swear by the Lord's name that if you don't, not one of them will be with you by tomorrow morning. That will be the worst disaster you have suffered in all your life. Then you have suffered." Okay. Then the king got up and went and sat near the city gate. His men heard that he was there, and they all gathered around him. David started back to Jerusalem. Meanwhile, all the Israelites had fled, each man to his own home. All over the country, they started quarreling among themselves. "King David, save us from our enemies," they said to one another. "He rescued us from the Philistines, but now he was fled from Absalom and left the country. We anointed Absalom as our king, but he had been killed in battle. So why don't somebody try to bring King David back?" The news of what the Israelites were saying reached King David. So he sent the prince Zadok and Abiathar to ask the leaders of Judah, "Why should you be the last to help bring the king back to his palace? You are my relative, my my own flesh and blood. Why should you be the last to bring me back?" David also told them to say to Amasa, "You are my relative. From now on, I am putting you in charge of the army in place of Joab. May God strike me dead if I don't." David was one the complete loyalty of all the men of Judah. And they sent him word. And they sent him word to return with all his officers. On his way back, the king was met at the river Jordan by the men of Judah, who have come to Gilgal to escort him across the river. At the same time, the Benjaminite Shimei, son of Gera from Bahurim, hurried to the Jordan to meet King David. He had with him 8,000 men from the tribe of Benjamin. And Ziba, the servant of Saul's family, also came with his 50 sons and 20 servants. And they arrived at Jordan before the king. They crossed the river to escort the royal party across to do whatever the king wants. David shook hands to Shimei. As the king was getting ready to cross, Shimei threw himself down in front of him and said, Your Majesty, please forget the wrong I did that day you left Jerusalem. Don't hold it against me or think about it anymore. I know, sir, that I have sinned kindness to Bosheth. Bosheth. His grandson, King David, wash, trim his hair, beard. His grandson, King David, wash, trim his hair, beard. To eat at your table, anything. I have decided that you and Ziba will share Saul's property. Let Ziba have it all. Mephibosheth answered, It is enough for me that your majesty have come home safely. David showed kindness to Barzillai. Barzillai from Gilead has also come down from Rogelim to escort the king across the Jordan. Barzillai was a very old man, 80 years old. He was very rich and have supplied the king with food while he was staying at Mahanaim. The king said to him, Come with me to Jerusalem, and I will take care of you. But Barzillai answered, I have not long to live. Why should I go with your majesty to Jerusalem? I am already 80 years old, and nothing gives me pleasure anymore. I can't taste what I eat and drink, and I can't hear the voice of singers. I will only be a bondage to your king, your majesty. I don't deserve such a great reward. So I will go just a little way with you beyond the Jordan. Then let me go back home and die near my parents' grave. Here is my son's Chiham, who will serve you. Take him with you, your majesty, and do for him as you think best. The king answered, I will take him with me and do for him whatever you want. And I will do for you anything you ask. Then David and all his men crossed the Jordan. He kissed Barzillai and gave him his blessing. The Barzillai went back home. Jordan, Judea, and Israel argued over the king. When the king had crossed, escorted by all the men of Judea and half the men of Israel, he went on to Gilgal, and Chiham went with him. All the Israelites went to the king and said to him, Your Majesty, why did our brothers, the men of Judea, think they have the right to take you away and escort you, your family and your men across the Jordan? The men of Judea answered, We did it because the king is one of us. So why should this make you angry? You have not paid for our food nor have been giving us anything. The Israelites replied, We have 10 times as many claims on King David as you have. Even if he is one of you, why do you, Obasha, look down on us? Don't forget that you were the first to start bringing the king back, by the violence in making their claim that the men of Israel. So, guys, this is the end of this reading because the Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the field of green grass and led me to the quiet pools of fresh waters. He gave me new strength. He guides me in the right path as He has promised. Even if I go through the deepest darkness, I will not be afraid, Lord, for you are with me. Your shepherd rod and staff protect me. You prepared a banquet for me when all my enemies can see me. You welcome me as an honored guest and fill my cup to the brim. I know that your goodness and love will be with me all my life, and your house will be my home as long as I live. The great King, the Lord, the world and all that is in it, belongs to the Lord. The earth and all who live on it are his. Are pure in heart and in thoughts. Those who do not worship idols or make false promises. The Lord will bless them and save them. God will declare them innocent. Such are the people who come to God, who come into the presence of God. Frank wide the gates, open the ancient doors, and the great king will come in. Who is this great king, strong and mighty, the Lord victorious in battle? Frank wide the gates, open the ancient doors, and the great king will come in. Who is this great king? The triumphant Lord, he is the great king. Hallelujah. So, guys, this is the end of this reading. Hope to see you tomorrow. Bye bye.